Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss Pre-Market Report for Thursday, February 15th, 2018. I'm Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES, currently holding right at around the 27.08 half level. That's back to the 27.0375s. That's the midpoint of the impulse sell-off that we saw over the last couple of weeks here. When we bounce back to that mid, we got a great key range. A wide key range with very important boundaries at the edges. That's what we mentioned right off the bat when we form a strong low here, that we were likely headed back to 27.03. We got it. We also talked about the fact that if we retest these lows or into the LVM below it, that's the best opportunity to trap and return. That bounce, that double bottom occurred much quicker than we expected. And so far, we've seen a return right back to 27.03. So it's very clear right now that we are seeing price action play out between these two middle extremes here, and we could continue to see that play out overall. Right up here at this high or anywhere above 27.03 is an opportunity for bears to look to trap and defend. Any rejections of 27.0375 could lead this thing right back toward recent lows yet again as price continues to play out within this range. So 27.03 continues to be the main pivot to watch. If we take a look at the NQ, very similar price action. Again, this one dropped cleanly into the LVN below and below its key range low. And that was a fantastic trap. Again, we got our move back to 66.53. That was our expectation. And it occurred off a failed new low the previous session. Failed new low turned into a major continuation and stop run day to the upside. And right now we're testing prices just above that prior pivot high. And again, this is the zone where we could begin to see rejection if rejection enters the picture here. So that LVN, very, very important right there. Basically, we're looking at 67.20 as kind of that level. The high that previous day is 17.75. Basically, 67.20 would be the pivot here to watch. Failure to hold above that zone could start to rotate this back towards 64.12 and perhaps even back into the LVN. Again, this is the key range to watch right now on a short-term basis, and the larger key range is up here. And so right now we're right in that zone, and if price can reestablish acceptance above 67.20, then perhaps we start to work our way back up. But right now that's going to be a big-time pivot to watch the rest of the session. All right, taking a look here at crude oil. Crude oil, this one was bouncing off basically beneath these lows here, around 58.89, 58.80. That's about where quarterly S3 is in terms of the PivotBoss band. So the third standard deviation below VWAP on a quarterly basis is about 58.89. And so right here, every time price drop below that zone in an uptrending market, that is around the best spot to look to do business if you're a bull, to trap and return to value. Value currently being 63 in terms of quarterly VWAP, right now being 2-month VWAP that began at the beginning of January. And basically, the idea is if price can continue to hold 58s, the expectation is we move towards 63 at the very least. And then perhaps we start to trade between those two extremes. Right now what we're seeing, however, is a failed new high above 61s. That's very, very important. A failed new high above 61s suggests that we could see a retest of lows, and if not, even a full-on continuation here. So this is pretty important here. 61s at the moment. Bears rejecting that previous high. Bulls still not out of the running here. 60 is still the major level in terms of bulls. That's the previous month's low. A nice little box formed below it, and we popped back above. So right now, both sides are still in play. There's no one way that's winning, but overall, down here below 50, 58, 58.75, very big area of support. Very clear in terms of S3 support on the quarterly bands, and that could provide a bounce at least towards 63. So continue to watch this 60 level and 61 for directional bias today. All right, lastly, let's take a look at gold. Gold got a major squeeze in the previous session. This was huge. Failed new low And all the metals really did this. Silver too, failed new low and started to run through the highs. We mentioned that with this failure at 1325, the bears failed to get that thing going. That was likely going to lead to a move back up within this range. And yesterday pretty much lifted this market right back toward those recent highs. Here we are again approaching 1362.40, which is the top of the key range. The last time we tested it, we backed off to 1309 evens. This time, will we do the same thing? It's likely that we'll come up here, perhaps put in a new high, and then start to reject back down. So this is kind of the range we're in right now. You know, this is the range. Basically, the market compartmentalized and traded in this zone. Now it's rallied up here, and now it's looking to compartmentalize and perhaps trade in this zone. So the idea up here would be to look for any rejections at or above 1362. Remember, 1375 is a major CLVN on the composite profile. On the multi-year chart, that has been significant resistance. So the expectation up here is that bears come in to play at some point, and at the very least return this back toward recent lows between 1309 and 1320. All right, let's take a look at Bitcoin. Here's Bitcoin. This one, very, very interesting. Obviously, clear downtrending behavior. We knew we had a good shot to reach 6,700. Once we got this rejection day, we thought that there could be a bounce back toward 10K. And we've basically played out that entire scenario here. Today's high is 99.50, almost getting all the way back to 10K. So the idea that we would bounce after the 6,700, basically closing the day around 7,500, that right there has been already a 50+% move just back to this zone. And again, for those of you that trade Bitcoin now or started on Bitcoin, one of the key pivots here is that FOMC key level. That's the 1 o'clock open price on the day the FOMC statement is released, in addition to the Fed interest rate decision. And that price is very, very important. And when that price is printed here and it initially goes offered, whenever a rejection occurs, you're likely going to see price come right back to that pivot. And that's something we do in other markets, and it continues to work even in Bitcoin as well. This is the second such instance we've seen that occur since the life of this contract. So very nice action here. Now this is where it gets very interesting though. 10K. If there's any rejection in the zone, this is the first time we're testing the PIMA trigger zone. We're still in a downtrending market. This is retesting support after breaking through it. So this is a major area here, and this could be the top short term as this thing tries to perhaps make another wave down. If price can push beyond 10K, then we have 12K still above as the next clear and away target and next major area of resistance. So the next two key levels, 10K and 12K. And if price can't get beyond 10K here, we might start making our way down. And again, 2100 is the next major zone below. All right, that's it for now. Let's see how this plays out heading into the rest of the session. Good luck and trade well.